Welcome back to the 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about EX-NEGROCATION. In other words, excommunication, or even tribal law. There are people in African history and Black history that have done things that warrant isolation, that warrant death, that warrant severe punishment.
The black card has been taken, period.
Right. So recently, R.Kelly was sentenced to 30 years in a federal penitentiary for sex trafficking.
Sex trafficking is what he got charged with. Yeah.
He got charged for sex trafficking. And I was totally fine with that. Then somebody made a comparison to Ghislaine Maxwell, who got 10 years for sex trafficking. So no matter how you slice it, it's the same. There are people who would defend R. Kelly simply because he's Black and they won't admit it on the surface. But the stuff that R. Kelly has done warrants having his Negro card taken away. Once you become a pedophile, you are a heathen. You are other than. You are something that is despicable. You don't have a race anymore. You are something that will prey on your own people, and you don't deserve protection from the law, in my opinion.
Look, we get it. R. Kelly was abused as a child. We know this. That's not an excuse. That doesn't give you the right to hurt other people because you were hurt. That's the biggest cop-out in the world. Now, I'm not saying that he wasn't a victim. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm also saying, first things first, the guy he kept getting arrested for pedophilia, for having sex with underage girls, for having pictures. See, y'all forget. So the first time he gets charged, nothing goes down because, lack of evidence, whatever. But then that time when he was in Florida and they bust him with his camera that has all these pictures of underage girls in it. So look, basic sex trafficking is when the federal government gets involved. It's something the state can't get right. And the problem is with the R. Kelly situation, at least in Illinois, at least in Chicago, remember Kelly had so much money that he was paying off cops. People were calling him whenever the people were, it was a situation. Then he gets in trouble in Florida and he's found not guilty. So the other thing is when somebody's found not guilty, they become emboldened. Now, again, Ghislaine Maxwell is despicable. The reason she's so important is because Jeffrey Epstein, this is Jeffrey Epstein's longtime girlfriend. Jeffrey Epstein is the guy that was running the Lolita Express. That was a private plane that's flying people to this private island. And, he is grooming little girls, 15, and shit like that. You got presidents on there. You got Trump. You got Bill Clinton. And then here's the dumb thing with the Bill Clinton thing is the stewardess, the flight attendant that was on the plane said, oh, he was nothing but a perfect gentleman. Again, this is the president of the United States. Why does he need to use a private plane when you have the entire United States Air Force available? So Ghislaine Maxwell probably should have got more, but there's a couple reasons she didn't. First of all, is that whenever you deal with these pedophile rings and these sex traffickers, the pimp gets a little bit of time, but the Johns, the guys that were actually they were using the service, they don't get caught at all. So
but here's the deal though. In any other legal circumstance, the person engaged in the criminal activity is punished almost as harshly as the person providing that criminal service. For example, drug abuse. Look at the consumption of cannabis in the Black community and for how long Black men have been locked up for smoking weed. New York City is the biggest example of that. In 2018, 70,000 Black men were arrested for possession of cannabis. Now, but here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. That would be the same if you would apply the law, the rule of law they apply to the Ghislaine Maxwell case, they apply to cannabis consumption and distribution. Then the people that distribute cannabis, that grow cannabis, they might get a year or two, right? Compared to
the user getting more time.
Because the user gets more time. The user, the user gets a lot of time. In the case of cannabis, the user gets a lot of time, right? The person that is trafficking in cannabis gets a lot of time as well. But
Look, that's the whole deal
but
with our vice
hold on a
president,
second.
Kamala Harris.
Hold on for a second. So what this illustrates is how New York City and other cities use cannabis as a way to generate revenue for the courts and the police system. But it's also how lopsided the law is in regard to people of color versus white people. But in this case, if they wanted to keep that straight all the way across the board, where the person that is actually providing the service is getting a lesser punishment, and the people that are actively engaging in this are being punished
At the same rate. Yep.
at the same rate, then why is it that Ghislaine Maxwell gets 10 years, but the guys that are actually, having sex with these young girls get nothing?
See, there's a couple things we got to just be honest about. If they wanted her to snitch or turn on the guys, they would have gave her more time. They would have gave her like 150 years. Then she would have plea bargained it down, and then she would have said, "Okay, well, look, I'll tell you who was on the plane." Now, like I said, the reason this talk is so important is because, look, we know R. Kelly did it. We know Jeffrey Epstein was in charge of the plane, but Ghislaine Maxwell was supposedly the brains behind the operation. Her dad was Mossad. She's the one that had the little black book of the people flying on the plane. Now, look, here's the deal. R. Kelly is more closer to the Harvey Weinstein and the Bill Cosby type shit. Not only, they weren't providing it for other people, they were actually abusing people. Now, here's the deal. Harvey Weinstein was abusing his power. And so this is the big argument, the big fight that black people have, is that you tried to make R. Kelly and Bill Cosby the faces for sexual abuse, when you got white men who have been doing this shit for years. And so that's if you want to have that argument, I agree. You got white folks doing way worse shit, but you've made R. Kelly.
At the end of the day, fuck R. Kelly, because he's a heathen. And the point I started the show off with is that a pedophile is a pedophile, whether you have a sex trafficking ring with $1 billion connections, or you're some fucking illiterate ass singer who's running a cult and brainwashing little girls. Basically, this motherfucker was living the way most of these Hebrew Israelite motherfuckers want to live. Dudes. You know what I'm saying? This, like,
Look,
honestly, what's going on here is the fact that a lot of people would not object to what he was doing because they were okay with it, because they were willing to look the other way, because they secretly admire what the fuck he did.
Oh, hold on. That's some deep shit. Listen to what my brother said. The reason people see, one of the things that we've talked about this in past podcast, so I want to say it again. Unfortunately, black folks, we have a bad habit of victim blaming. We love to blame the victim. Oh, she shouldn't have been out there. She shouldn't have been dressed like that. That kind of shit. We're known for that. But that's because we've been abused as a culture so bad. Look, past podcasts, side chick syndrome. Black folks have the side chick syndrome. And so what we do is we will make an excuse for the oppressor because we've been oppressed so much as a culture. So
that is Stockholm syndrome.
Yes. And so, look, again, this is not in defense of R. Kelly. This is an explanation that black folks need to let go of. Look, what my brother's telling you is many of these black men, the reason that they always blame the little girls, man, she was too fast. Even R. Kelly attempted to say their parents brought them to me. So he's telling you that, during that Gayle King interview, he goes, their parents brought them to me. So he's admitting to having sex with underage girls because their parents brought them to. Like, that's not okay either. But what it is we are used to victim
But
blame.
that's the hold it. Motherfuckers are not even looking at the glaringly obvious fact that this
Obvious,
motherfucker did
just
not
admit
use
it to
any discernment. The fact that he is basically putting the responsibility on the kids and their fucking parents. He's saying these kids gave me their consent. So first, that was my okay. And then the
that's
parents
statutory
gave
rape.
them,
They can't.
that's statutory rape. There's a reason
Yeah,
why there's laws against this shit.
yeah.
Then the parents gave him the okay. Nothing in this motherfucker's head said what I'm doing is wrong. Not
Now,
at any time he was like, maybe I shouldn't be fucking little girls that ain't grown women yet.
well, here's the other part. First things first. There were some of these girls that the parents did do that with. But let's not forget he married Aaliyah at 14. Let's not forget that he was abusing. Let's not. You have in the whole documentary, Surviving R. Kelly. You got dancers saying, "Yeah, we know for a fact he had sex with somebody underage." And again, if you want to say the statute of limitations is up, all that shit, I dig it. Now, you also have him taking advantage of adult women. Like if you're an adult, see that's where that starstruck shit comes in. That's when you have such low self-esteem that the person you have sex with, some kind of way, their fame rubs off on you. I'm a groupie. I'm sleeping with somebody important, so I'm important. I don't feel sorry for an adult woman who makes a bad decision. I'm like, look, that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, we know for a fact, after all this time, he was still messing with young girls and messing with a couple little boys too. That came out during this case that there was a couple boys that he was abusing. So, look, fine, he's a pedophile. Now, this shit, we don't rock with that shit no kind of way. Like I said, our issue is the fact that you're trying to make the face of sexual abuse Michael Jackson, which again, Michael, based on that video, based on that documentary, because I was like, okay, Surviving Neverland. Again, this is Oprah. The other thing is that y'all got to remember, all these shows are pushed out by one person, Oprah. Now, let's talk about the problem with that situation. Who made Oprah the fucking law in the black community when she wasn't black 5 minutes ago? Now, Oprah was all in Harvey Weinstein's face, kissing on him and hugging on him, and thanks for your support and all this shit. Yeah, the reason Oprah is the one pushing the Michael Jackson thing, pushing Bill Cosby, and pushing R. Kelly, because she was trying to take the shine off her homeboy Harvey Weinstein.
But listen,
So
listen to me. Anytime that old fucking hag has any opportunity to take a
bash black men.
black man that is wealthy and tear him down, she'll do it. Because listen, man, she is a raging control freak. That's why
She's ugly.
that's why
she's ugly. Black people don't find her attractive.
listen,
Niggas don't want her.
listen,
So
that's why she got a cuck like Stedman who sleeps in the guest house. Because that motherfucker is her beta do boy. But listen, here's the deal.
I don't know.
No. Listen. Sidebar. She has a uberly controlling personality. She cannot stand black men with power. She has sunken place issues, gender wise, and where gender control is concerned, and then also where race is concerned. I mean, look,
Yeah,
man.
she's sleeping with Gail. They said Gail was one of her girlfriends.
And then when fucking Snoop Dogg went bad on Gail, they got this motherfucker on TV, head down, apologizing. When the reason why he went bad on her is because she wanted to bring out like all this bad laundry about Kobe, just to get viewed like ratings and shit. And like Snoop just clowned and called her a dog face bitch and all that shit, which is hilarious. She does like a basset hound. But listen,
if you guys want to find the interview, it was Gail King. She was interviewing the basketball player. I forgot her name. Please forgive me.
Leslie.
I want to say Lisa Leslie. Lisa Leslie. Mm-hmm. And so she's asking her. Then she asked about Kobe. This that. And then Kobe was a racist. She's like, and then she says, I don't know him to be like that. I'm aware of the case.
The crazy part about it is like Gail was leading with these questions, and Lisa was like, I really have no idea what you're talking about. And she was actually defending Kobe. And because Gail came in there with an agenda. It was her idea to do this show, this piece on Kobe Bryant and tear down his character after the man died in a crash with his daughter.
Look, well, hold on. Just for the record, again, we know for a fact Kobe, based on what I read, based on the testimony, Kobe did something wrong in that hotel back in Colorado. Okay, we get it.
Okay, but you know what? He went to court and he had his day in court, and that's done. You know what
Wasn't
I'm
found
saying?
guilty. He wasn't
Right.
found guilty.
Yeah, he wasn't
Uh,
found guilty. So then,
and how about this? And it never happened again. I mean, see that's the whole idea. If he had a pattern of doing this shit after, see that's the whole issue with R. Kelly. R. Kelly kept going to court, and tapes keep coming forward. And unfortunately, I'm not defending either one. I'm saying Kobe either got help or got over it and didn't make that mistake
but
again.
hold up. There's no record of Kobe being a pedophile. There's no
There's
no record
rape.
of him being a fucking heathen, and he went to court and he was found to be innocent. So let's move on from that. But the fact that Gail, wanted to tear
Brought it
him
up
down,
at that point.
and then who was backing her? Fucking Oprah's backing her. You know what I'm saying? And so here these two broads are that want to tear black men down, because this is in line with this whole reptilian Illuminati, Bilderberg, Rothschild idea of break apart the family, keep the black men emasculated. You know what I'm saying? In that way, there'll never be another black messiah. They're doing the work of J. Edgar Hoover.
Look, here's the whole issue with the Michael Jackson thing. So I watched Surviving Neverland. I'm thinking I'm gonna see some shit I didn't know, and I'm gonna be just disgusted, right? Nah, not really. Again, I'm not trying to blame the victim, but people knew Mike had a problem with kids, so he stopped doing that shit. But these parents kept bringing their kids around Michael Jackson because they wanted to get a lawsuit. And then they sat here, and every time he went to court, he won. He didn't lose any of those cases. And when the FBI came knocking on his door to come after him, he let them come in there, and the FBI there's nothing here. There's nothing here. So Surviving Neverland was again an attempt by Oprah.
This is what happened with Michael Jackson, though. The issue with Michael Jackson is he did things that were suspect, but were never proven to be blatantly obvious.
Yeah, he didn't pass the line. The guy was weird.
He got close to the line, but he never crossed the line. And because this dude had his childlike mentality, he was in his perpetual adolescence. He was chemically castrated. This motherfucker never really became a man in full. And so
the reason he did that was to keep his voice high. His
father did that to him.
Yeah, because he was going to be an entertainer. Now, I'll give you an example of something that Michael did that was wrong, but it wasn't illegal. So he goes to Sony. He goes to Japan to do that big deal with Sony. All these big deals. And he goes over there, and it might not have been Sony, but he was in Japan because he was always big in Japan. So he meets with the CEO and the board of directors for this company. Well, he takes the CEO's son out, who's like 14 or 15, and gets him drunk. And he's laughing about it, and they find out, and this is a big disgrace. You can look this shit up. That's one of these deals. Now, did he touch the little boy? No report of that. There's no report of Michael. It was funny to him to see this kid get drunk. That's, again, that comes from Mike. Michael was abused. So Michael, in his mind, again, what my brother's telling you, Mike still sees himself as a kid, even though he's not. And so because of that, he took this little kid out, got him drunk. That's not right, but it's not some pedophile shit. There was no sexual act, and they made it clear Mike didn't touch this kid.
But Mike went to court. He went to court a bunch of times.
And whenever he got out, it was quite clear. That's why the FBI said, yeah, we're going to investigate you. And they investigated him and said, there's nothing here.
Right.
But Oprah went ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was like, again, if you look at the MO for Oprah and her group, Mike's dead. So Surviving Neverland comes out, and it's going to be one of these deals. And people all like, okay. So there's a part where Mike has naked looking in our buttholes, and we're like, okay, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for this person because you guys are really reaching. So Mike didn't touch you. Mike didn't do all this, but he made you sit over here, line up, and spread your buttholes. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have done that. And I get it. Your parents told y'all to do that shit. Your parents like, hey, look, if Mike touches y'all, let us know. We're gonna sue. Now, there was a group. There's a rap group back in the day called Quo. So this is how old we are.
Yeah, two little kids,
And
little bald headed kid. I remember.
yeah, a
Yeah,
white boy. Yeah, white boy and a black dude. The white boy was one of these guys that had a lawsuit against Mike. So Mike get so that again, this was they part of the settlement was to get his kid a recording contract. Now the black kid wasn't touched. The white kid was allegedly one of the ones that Mike abused. And again, they I'm sorry, ain't no monetary value. Ain't no way. If somebody had touched my kid, would I want my kid to be out there in public performing? Because that's just another form of abuse.
yeah,
So
but you gotta like separate the wheat from the chaff. And there's people that are opportunists that see
yes,
a potential payday. The same way that these
R.
girls
Kelly.
line up after NBA game or after NFL game, and they are thirsty as fuck, and they trying to get their shot at a meal ticket. You know what I'm saying? And look, it's no different than these thirst traps that are trying to get rich off of, using their looks of their body to get a
The
payday for
worst
the rest of their
one.
life.
The worst one that we always hear the rumor was the turkey baster one. Everybody hears the turkey. So when white folks, when you hear them say the turkey baster, here was the deal. There was an NBA player that had a baby by a groupie or whatever, right? Well, what happens is, so they have sex. That girl saves the condom, takes her turkey baster, and impregnates her homegirl. The only reason that there was proof of this is because of course they're like, yeah, he had sex with her. It comes to find out that when they did, so this is the rumor. I don't know the exact specifics, but the rumor was when they did the kind of back 9 months, he wasn't in that town. Like literally, he was on the road someplace else. And they're like, okay, conception would have been 7 days right here. He was nowhere near this woman in that 7 day period. It's because the homegirl impregnated the other homegirl, so she would be able to get child support also. This is the type of abuse that happens towards the men, successful men. And like I said, let's go back to the whole point. The reason, look, R. Kelly is guilty of what he did. Ghislaine Maxwell should get more time, but she's not because she's a pimp, and they don't want her to open up her little black book.
Dude, we forgot one thing. Drake carries packets of hot sauce with him because what he'll do is after he has sex with a girl, he'll take the condom to the bathroom and he'll put hot sauce in the condom and then he'll put it in the trash can. So he has sex with a girl, he put the hot sauce in the condom, and then he goes to make something to eat or get something from the kitchen, and he hears minutes later a scream from the bathroom, and the girl had took the condom and put it in her vagina and got burnt by the hot sauce.
She was trying to get pregnant. She was trying to impregnate herself. See, look, again, I'm not saying, okay, we're not here bashing women. This is not a woman bash. This is just showing you the depths that people go through. We're also explaining to you that, hey, what R. Kelly did was bad enough where, nigga, stop defending this motherfucker. Stop trying to, like, look.
Listen, people defending R. Kelly are suspect. 100%. Listen, Nick,
liking his music and liking the person is separate.
Listen,
I don't
if you are defending R. Kelly, you're a piece of shit because you are signing off on pedophilia when you defend that motherfucker. Now, that is not the same as Michael Jackson, who had his day in court more than one time and has come away innocent on all accounts. And then you have people with money. You have two sides of that. You have people looking to get money from him, so they'll create something. And then you have people who have money who have an agenda against black men with money who want to tear him down. Now, R. Kelly, on the other hand, is a legitimate piece of shit. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell is a legitimate piece of shit. But you have to understand, when you see these people being tried in court and being punished in the public eye, that is only done to keep you quiet, to keep your attention from the real sex trafficking rings that are going on in places of power and in the heartland and all these truck stops and all over.
Here's the problem with R. Kelly. This is the thought I didn't finish earlier. Excuse me. So let me finish. The federal government gets involved whenever there's certain people that are that bad, and they're like, look, how'd y'all mess this up? Like literally, you have people messing up the cases with R. Kelly on purpose on a state level to keep him out of jail. So the Fed that so when you hear the federal government, so you have a case like Trayvon, where the feds should have got involved with Trayvon. I'm gonna tell you why. Because they go to court, Zimmerman is found not guilty, but there are civil rights that were violated, and so the feds should have got involved. Remember, the feds kept threatening to get involved, and they never really did. So that's what the sex trafficking charge is. Sex trafficking is when there's so much pedophilia going on, and the state can't get it right. So since the state can't get it right, the feds get involved, charge them with this big thing. It's the same thing with the RICO predicate, which you hear these rappers who are getting busted for RICO. Now, the deal with that, like say for instance, Young Thug, that is a state level RICO predicate. So the RICO predicate, you ain't got to be found guilty of one thing. You just got to be found guilty of things that make the gang or the group stronger or whatever. So usually when the feds get involved, it's because the state keeps muffing it up. Everybody knew the state of Illinois kept muffing up R. Kelly. So the feds had to get involved, and they use this obligatory charge. So same thing with Ghislaine Maxwell. The reason the feds had to get involved is because they were flying to an island where you couldn't.
They were crossing boundaries. They were crossing international boundaries.
So what they were doing was basically legal. So,
but also with R. Kelly, there were girls that were from different states. So because these girls were traveling from different states, once it becomes an interstate problem, it's federal.
No. What my brother's saying is once you cross the state line, it becomes a federal charge. Y'all remember our boy Jack Johnson, the heavyweight champion of the world? What was Jack Johnson charged with, my brother? You know the answer. Transporting white girls over state lines. That was actually a federal law back then. So what he was doing, he was having not only was he having sex with white girls, is he was taking them with. Like, look, I'm importing my own white girl. I'm taking the white girls with me when I'm crossing state lines. That was a federal charge. A black man couldn't do that. So that's how this shit works. Again, this is so fucking muddled. But the bottom line is, what we're saying is, don't defend R. Kelly because he's black. Let that shit go. Bill Cosby. It's so difficult because so much of this shit, again, Bill Cosby is another one who's went to court all these times and wasn't found guilty. Now, this last one, the girl was supposedly underage. That's the whole big deal. They try to jump him with again, they want Bill Cosby so bad. They want to get him, if he did the shit, he deserves to be in jail, y'all. But the thing is, so many times when Bill goes to court, he's found not guilty. And so they tried to get the last one because the statute of limitations, they didn't want it to expire. So they tried to charge him again while he was already in jail. That shit kind of fell through. Look, here's something I'm going to say. So because of what Bill is accused of, should he have not been allowed to buy NBC? Should he have
CBS?
No, Bill was buying NBC.
He's buying CBS. It was CBS.
I thought it was NBC. Remember, it was a $2 billion deal. He got the financing.
CBS.
They wouldn't sell to him. NBC. I'm arguing. It was NBC.
It was CBS. Continue.
NBC.
CBS.
But this is also what we mean by the abuse of black men. So what they're saying is that the reason he wasn't allowed to buy the network is because of all the stuff that he had did with women, and everybody knew about it and things like that. I'm not saying that Bill was a good guy. I'm saying is that the reason he wasn't allowed to buy a network is because he was black. And this is very important. If look who else bought a network during that time period, shortly before, Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch is the guy that owns Fox. So he was allowed to create and start Fox. Rupert Murdoch is Australian. So the law, this is a federal law. You cannot own a network in America if you're not an American. So Rupert Murdoch got his citizenship just to own Fox, and he hasn't been on American ground since. So that shows you how, look, he's still a white man, but this black man who came up with the financing tries to buy a network. Now, and you're saying that, okay, so he wasn't allowed to buy the network because he was abusing women. When you come to find out, like, you got people like Hugh Hefner abusing women. Y'all didn't have a problem with him. You got Harvey Weinstein abusing women for years. Again, only reason, so you want to put Harvey in jail now after he's all doing this whole feeble thing, possibly his dick not working. So again, I'm not defending Cosby's actions. I'm simply saying that it's a penalty for being black, but it's not a penalty for being a pedophile, a womanizer, any of that shit. That penalty only exists when enough people in the public eye find out about the shit and start a whole movement. Then you do something about it. But for the record, you don't defend somebody because they're black. There's two separate things. Now, this is the other part. Like whenever like you talk to your kids, and the reason, like I said, this kind of came up is because one of my homeboys, his kids were saying that R. Kelly got more time because he's black. I said that is a complicated one, and my friend didn't want to have the conversation with his kids because they're not kids. They're his children, but they're not children. They're young adults, and he's like, because he said, he explained to me, he said, duct tape, I want my kids to know right and wrong. And this is such a murky situation that is very difficult to have an intelligent conversation. Either you did it or you didn't do it. And that's makes it difficult to have this conversation. Yes. Was R. Kelly probably punished more severely because of his color? Definitely. This other person, the reason she wasn't punished at the same rate wasn't because she was white. It's because she had secrets. Because she had those powerful.
Okay, but check this out. Check this out, though. Here's part of the reason why I'm totally fine with his 30 years prison sentence. I'm fine.
Oh yeah, we all are. I think we all.
But here's the thing, because then this dude will be 70 something years old, and when he gets out, he'll be such a creepy ass old man.
No, he's 50. He'll be 80 something if he survives.
Right.
Yeah.
So he'll be an old ass man, and no fucking young girl is gonna want to get with him unless they're a complete moron or they think that he's worth something, some type of monetary gain. So in that way, the punishment fits the crime because he can't commit the crime because he doesn't have that. He does not have that magnetism anymore. You know what I'm saying? So the thing about locking these people up is that if you keep them away from the community long enough, they will have less influence when they get out, which is a good thing. So if this is a man, who's young and he does this, well, keep his ass in there until he's an old man. And that way, nobody wants his ass no more. So,
well, Roscoe, I disagree. He's an old man now, as far as
yeah, I know. Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying?
No. I'm saying
I'm talking about a feeble old man.
Yeah.
So, but check it out, man. So, I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and they asked me, "Don't I think people can be rehabilitated?" I said some, but not all.
Yeah. Definitely.
And there's a reason why people are villains, because they're broken. And
there's a desire.
Whoa. And so, because of this, some people need several lifetimes to iron their shit out. There's people that cannot work their shit out in a lifetime. They're that fucked up. There's that much damage being done. And so
they need 3 or 4 lifetimes to figure this shit out.
Yes, man. And that's why, people often wonder why do babies die tragically? Why do they get eaten by dogs and shit like that? And well, God works in mysterious ways. I'll tell you what's going on. That baby was an asshole in the last lifetime. And it was like, you know what? You're going to be born. And that fucked up shit you did to those people, how you fucking killed those babies and raped those women in that village in Africa in that last life, guess what? As soon as you're born, you get about a year or two, a dog's going to jump the fence and bite your head off like a cabbage. Dude, listen, man. No. Hold on. So this is what I'm saying, is that people, we come down here, this is a school, and if you don't graduate, if you don't get your shit together spiritually, you will not graduate, which means that will follow you into the next life, and then you have more karma that you have to work out. So if you don't work that karma out, then motherfucker, you're going to be in summer school, you're going to be in night school, you're going to be in the fucking short bus, you're going to be in remedial classes until you get your shit right. All of it, bro. Your ass going to be in Flanagan, all that shit until you get your shit right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, this dude was like, well, don't you believe people can be rehabilitated? No, not everybody, man.
The first things first, I hate the word believe. Look, so you're asking me can I'll give an example. I hate giving personal examples. So, but the people I deal with on both sides, I've been a manager at the company and I've been a union rep. I've dealt with people that got busted for drug use. Out of 10 people, only one of them was legit rehabilitated. That was because the point I was making earlier is you got to have a desire to change. Like when people are presented with stuff, they have to come to the realization that, okay, what I'm doing is unhealthy, bad, whatever. I need to change if I want to be a good person or survive. But you got other people that, like, the quote that I can't tell you who said the quote. I'll tell you off the air. But the quote I heard was, hey, cuz, I'm too young not to kick it. I'm too young to stop kicking it. That's what I was told by somebody. Other person, I was told that I wasn't told anything. They just continued to use drugs, and they went to the rehab at my company 2 times. Um, so when you're saying, do I believe? I don't believe shit. Yes, I know people can change, but I think it's 10% of the people change, and the other 90% are just trying not to get caught again. There's a whole different. That's a whole different vibe. So the fact that people can be rehabilitated, that is, you have to have a desire to be rehabilitated. There are some people, when you find the story of there's that gang member Little Fee they talked about, and I saw the documentary on him. Like, that dude was traumatized so much as a child that when he said, I just don't think, he's being serious. Like, he can shut his brain off because he's been through so much trauma. And they said they identified 23 things that happened to him before the age of 8 that affected his. That guy is a victim, but he hurt so many people so badly, he belonged in jail. Can he be helped? I don't know. So there are all these situations are blah blah blah. There's so many different situations. Look, we get it. R.Kelly was abused. Not give you a ticket to abuse somebody else. You should be trying to get absolution. You should be like, hey, Father, this happened to me. I'm the kind of person, if somebody did something to me, if I was 8 years old and you did some fucked up shit to me, as soon as I'm 35 and buy guns and shit, I'm knocking on your door. First time I found out about this shit, I'm in high school, and I saw this is back when 2020 was everything. And they had a 2020 episode talking about the Catholic Church and these priests that were abusing these little kids. And the Catholic Church would just move these guys around. Like, literally, when a priest got caught abusing somebody, all they did was move the guy. And so I'm watching this documentary. This is some crazy shit. It wasn't even a documentary. It was just a regular episode of that late night 2020 shit. It was on ABC. And so one of the guys did that. So there's a priest who retired. He got married and he has children. So this dude, these people had all got together and they find out, like, hey, we all been abused by the same priest. Well, this dude was like 40 years old. He went and found the dude. He's like, hey, man, you got kids now. I could do to your kids what you did to me. Like, that's how this. So you're like, yeah, the Catholic Church, they moved you around. You damaged like hundreds of people. And so they're in this like studio, and all these people had been abused by this one guy. But the one dude, like, he had my mentality. He was like, I'm finding you, and it was hard. He said the records were sealed. He had changed his name, all kinds of shit. And he's like, nah, man, I know exactly who the fuck you are, man. Just because you change your name doesn't mean you wash away your sins. I could do this to your children right now, what you did to me. I can, in fact, you're so feeble, I could fuck you up right now. And that's what the guy was doing. He's like showing, like, I have power, that I have the power that you had and that you abused. And so, yeah, like, instead, these people who are abused, they go out and start abusing people because, again, their power dynamic is fucked up in their head. Instead of them trying to find the person that hurt them and fixing that person or fucking them up, they want to hurt somebody else. That's not an excuse. That's not a get out of jail free card. That is not okay.
Check this out. So I want to talk about tribal law for a second. And
yes.
I want to talk about the way indigenous tribes in North America and Africa would deal with crime. And so there are customary laws that allowed for hanging, beheading, stoning, drowning, burying alive, and killing by the identical means used by the murderer had been allowed. Death is the common mode of punishment for the most serious crimes, such as murder, sacrilege, and other magic ritual offenses. The death penalty has been administered as the ultimate sanction in offenses other than murder And recidivist theft, meaning like somebody who just keeps stealing and stealing and stealing. Gross troublemaking, witchcraft, and treason. If it is capital punishment, the accusers are the executioners. And for the Bantu tribe, death is by various modes. It can be very cruel, including burning, roasting, torturing, amputation by piecemeal.
Ooh,
Now, it's generally
stoning,
done
man.
by,
Biblical's that stoning shit, man. Don't forget
boy,
about stoning.
but amputation by piecemeal. First, I'm going to cut your leg off. Then I'm going to cut,
Oh,
oof. Yeah, you see, you missed that
yeah.
part. That made me think of that movie Looper, where that dude's time traveling and he goes back into the past and they catch him in the future and they cut off his nose first and his nose
Ooh.
disappears in the past and then they cut off his legs and he can't run no more. He starts crawling and they cut off his arm and he can't crawl anymore. Oh, dude.
Fucked
So
up.
yeah, that's really fucked up. So, but now they're using guns, daggers, clubs, or drowning. For a debt that a creditor is seeking to recover, securities may be accepted. But if the accuser runs away, the person given the security is tried and punished. So some offenses such as murder and witchcraft are considered more serious than others and attract the death penalty. Consequently, that's to be expected.
Look, our audience, they always hear us talk about we're from Omaha. When I was younger, this is about the vice lords and all that kind of shit. And I remember when they were asking I don't know how this cop explained it, but I found out from this cop. The reason that we didn't have gangs for a long time, that when these gangs showed up in
The
Omaha, the
reason
cops,
why vice lords never really took off in Omaha
yeah,
is
is because the
because,
cops killed these dudes. Like,
tell them how they
so
did it.
you had these two gang leaders show up in Omaha, and they start raising havoc. They tossed them in the river. They
But
literally
no.
tossed these
How
people.
did they do it? They did it from off a bridge,
Yeah,
meaning they
went right.
knew that they would not survive the fall.
Yeah. So they don't know that for a fact because that's what makes it such. Like, look, we toss you in the river. You might survive, you might not, but I bet you don't come back. So
Or
for
maybe
years,
they tied their hands and feet and threw that motherfucker in the river.
yeah,
But
he,
listen, y'all.
the message got out.
For those people who don't understand that, I understand. I'll explain to you. Actually, what they got Western style justice. For those of you in the East listening to this, you might understand. This is some Western cowboy style justice. They basically said that, see, man, listen, I don't have a problem with what those cops did because they said, look, you're not bringing that shit into this city. And so they did some cowboy shit. They sent a fucking message. So
Yes, that shit worked for years too.
it worked for a long time until the Crips and Bloods eventually got there. But here's the deal though. That's some old cowboy shit. I'm sending a message to you to let you know, hey, don't come around here with that bullshit.
I'm gonna say some fucked up shit. Those cops actually cared about the community. That was not an abuse of. I know you might think it is an abuse of power.
And people might think it's like prejudice or racist. No, man.
No, no,
No.
They cared about their people that they were policing. They learned what here, what it brings, what comes with it, drug use, all that shit. And people always want to say this, but look at the corruption in Chicago. Look at this Larry Hoover shit that you got these rappers defending this nigga. Look, if you look, I hate bringing it up because we brought it up and I can't substantiate it, but he was in a minimum security prison. That was a nigga that at least was leaving prison, going to do his evil shit and coming back. Like, there are people that, why would you do that? Look, I remember another story about that. It was like I was listening to like Coast to Coast or something, and this guy calls in, and it was I think it might have been a sports show, and the guy calls in. He said, "Yeah, when I was 14, 15, I was a bad A. These cops beat the shit out of me. Took me weeks to heal, but I never did that shit again." And they were like, "Oh, that's police brutality." He's like, "No." You see, he said, "I come from a small town. You don't know how bad I was." He said, if those cops hadn't done what they did, I would have kept going down that road. These cops beat the batons to my legs, back of my knees, back. I was laid up. But when I healed, I had no desire to do shit no more. He said, "Man, I'm happily married with I'm a father of three, and all these people start. The show wasn't about that, but what he was explaining is that a lot of times that all it takes is the right adult getting involved in your life. He's like, sometimes it's an ass whooping that changes you. Sometimes it's somebody showing you love. Sometimes it's this. But he said that shit saved my life. He was Mexican and he was explaining the shit, and people took, like, he wasn't even the point of the show. They're like, man, that should never happen. I was like, nah, y'all missing the point. So again, sometimes punishment is necessary. Gucci has that line. He said, "I thank you for my punishment. It made me wise." So sometimes, if R. Kelly had been punished early on, would it have changed him? That's the real thing. Nobody wants to have that conversation because there's a good chance that if he had gotten in trouble in 80, was it 91, 90, with the Aaliyah situation, if he actually had got spanked and wasn't able to settle out of court, if he didn't sit here and sign over his rights to I Believe I Can Fly. Who owns the rights to I Believe I Can Fly? Aaliyah's parents, because he was signing over rights to songs and shit. So if he had actually been punished, if R. Kelly had did time early on, would that have changed him? That's the thing that which I'm really trying to say.
Okay. Check it out, man. Let's talk a little bit more about tribal law. Now, another form of punishment was to be banished.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that, yeah.
Well, I mean, the name of the show is EX-NEGROCATION. So check it out. So, according to these customs, a punishment that could be inflicted upon a criminal by compelling them to leave their country for a specific period of time of life, but it's synonymous with exile or deportation. And what happens?
The tribe that you go.
Yeah, but see, banishment is one of the penalties resorted to in pre-colonial African societies. Serious crimes such as murder and witchcraft may attract such a penalty. This method is based mainly on the theory of elimination. Banishment was regarded as an equivalent to death due to the fact it might lead to attacks by animals or capture by slave dealers. Banishment may be permanent or temporary. So the Fulani of northern Nigeria used temporary banishment as penal sanction. And this amounts to sending a person into the bush until that person repents. So another form of punishment is that if a man is murdered or a person is murdered, the person that does the murdering, they will lose all their property, their homes, their family homes will be burned down, and their entire family will be punished.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And the guy has to hang himself.
I remember I told you about that picture, this hanging, and it was a picture that's like real popular. You see it, and so the homeboy's dad was breaking that shit down to us, and he said, hanging became a way to intimidate people with the plan. He said before that, but hanging was local justice. Like he said the cops didn't have the power they have now. Back in the day, if you got caught hurting a kid or you got caught doing something, like you said, stealing, that lynch mob got together, got your ass, ripped you out your bedroom with your family, and they hung you in front of everybody so you wouldn't do this shit no more. And then other people wouldn't do this shit. Look, like I said, hanging now has this racial overtone to it. And so the reason I bring it up because this picture we saw, we've all seen this picture, but one of those dudes survived the hanging. This dude like literally created an anti-lynching museum because he survived a lynching. But lynching was a tool that was used. Again, when you talk about tribal law, back in the day, these cops didn't have the power they have now. And so if somebody was known to have done something, because you're in a small community, people know. And so you get caught abusing a kid, you get caught whatever, stealing a couple cars, you do something bad enough, you got lynched, you got hung. And it wasn't just the physical part, it was the message to the rest of the people, like, hey, this motherfucker right here, this is what's going to happen to you. Your family will be shamed. Everybody knows that you did this awful shit. That's where tribal law comes in. And so when my brother tells you about tribal law, is that all of a sudden, the only time you see tribal law now is if somebody's a snitch and they get killed. But you don't see the rest of the tribal. See, that's where I have a problem with the whole snitching thing. You got somebody who's a pedophile, who's abusing kids, who's doing all this shit, and don't nobody touch this nigga, R. Kelly should have been dealt with by the family. So somebody's dad should have grabbed a nine and went and euthanized that nigga. You understand what I'm saying? Like a fucking rabid dog. But instead, they're more worried about getting fame. They're more worried about doing documentaries and shit. Some of them people should have been embarrassed. I don't want to hear your side of the story. Fuck you. You're an idiot. As soon as my daughter or my son had got wrapped up in that shit, somebody should have went and knocked on that nigga door like, hey, are you Mr. Kelly? Yeah. Blink, blink, blink. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody should have run up on stage and tackled that nigga and start beating his ass. But that shit don't happen because we don't believe in tribal law anymore. We don't believe in holding people accountable.
But when you look at tribal law in comparison to modern Western law, tribal law is faster. There are fewer technicalities. There are fewer loopholes, if any at all. And justice is much more swift.
The reason that's the issue is because everybody's afraid. People love to bring up the mistakes. Everybody's afraid of making a mistake. Everybody's afraid of disciplining somebody that shouldn't be. Yeah, we all afraid of that, but not that afraid. See, back then it's like, you know what? If we make a mistake, cool. I bet you the nigga that did it will get the fuck out of town because we were more worried about stopping the behavior than we are now. Now, like you go to jail, it might be 2 years before you go to court. You might get off on a technicality. Cop might have arrested you wrong or some shit, and that was the whole deal with the R. Kelly shit. I'll give you an example. Remember that Griselda Blanco documentary, that Cocaine Cowboys? Remember when they had her like chief executioner? He's about to go to court, and all of a sudden he has sex with the damn who's the girl that does the typing, the stenographer. Yeah, he has sex with the stenographer. Like she comes to his hotel, whatever, and they sleep together. So look this shit up. I might be, but some kind of way it was somebody who had, and so after that, then his attorney says, "Hey, mistrial, yada yada yada," and that kind of shit. See, this is the shit we're talking about. When people muddy the waters, that was a murderer. Even now, he's like, "Yeah, I killed people for Griselda," but he knew that he could get off on a technicality. That's how that shit was going down back in the 80s. People were getting off on technicalities. That's the shit with R. Kelly. He was getting off on technicalities because local police would fuck it up. Somebody somewhere in Illinois would fuck it up. So it was necessary for the feds to get involved. But my point is, why did the feds get involved? Why didn't our community take care of this nigga? I get it. I like the nigga's music too, but why didn't our community? Why didn't the local people say, like, this is so bad for our community that this motherfucker's he's not going to stop until somebody stops him? How come people of Chicago didn't take care of this nigga? Instead, they took care of the nigga by hiding him. But instead, we should be self-policing. And that's what my brother means when he says tribal law. Somebody around that nigga said, hey, look, you do this again, I'm going to take you out. Stop this shit now. But they didn't. They blamed the victim. They said them little girls shouldn't have been out. Them little girls are fast. Them little girls, they're the ones who don't know any better, but R. Kelly does. He's the adult. And honestly, after hearing that nigga talk, maybe he didn't know any better. Dave Chappelle makes a joke. They're like, hey, nigga, give your lawyer something to work with. Like, shut the fuck up. But that shows you how compellingly stupid this individual is. He really does not see what he was doing as being wrong. And that's why that self-policing is so important.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just him though, man. There's other people, recently, people of prominence, but like there's people also that have committed crimes like recently. Okay, take people who are not famous, but who become infamous. For example, like there's guys that like recently, these boys, they'll go to like these parties that they had like graduation parties and they shoot them up and they go in there like shoot up children. Okay, let's use tribal law on that dude. You know what I'm saying? Like let's find a way to punish him on some primal type shit, because people are behaving this way because they don't think there'll be serious repercussions for their actions. I mean, look at Indonesia. They don't play that shit. I mean, dude, you see what happened to that white boy who went over there trying some graffiti bullshit and got caned.
Got caned.
He got his ass beat in public thoroughly. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm telling you, man. Like, if people thought that the punishment would be way more severe, they wouldn't be doing this bullshit.
I remember when they talked about the cane. This dude that did the caning was like a grand master. Like he said, like if I hit you 10 times, I can kill you. I know how to hit you, where to hit you. Like they did a whole like write up on the cane master, and I'm like, oh, this nigga ain't no
I
joke,
didn't
nigga.
know about that shit. I would love to read that, man. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. Like he said, I know how to. I can kill you in 3 or 4 strikes or some shit like that. That's what this motherfucker was saying.
yeah,
I'm
what's
like,
bamboo? I mean, cause like there's ways he can crush a windpipe. He can.
oh
I
no,
mean, it's just a
no, he was.
stick.
No, he was saying for hitting you in the back, like he could. He was talking about he had the ability. I'm like, it was crazy. I'm like, oh
That's
man,
cool. But put
you
that shit
remember?
down. Let's see if you nice with your hands, though.
Look, you remember when the dad said, "I'll take the caning for him." That's the reason the dad said, "Okay, cane me, don't cane my son." Is because they found out how lethal this nigga was with the cane. That's remember the dad was like, hey, I'll take the whipping. They're like, nah, nigga.
Mm-hmm.
The government's like, nah, no, he got this coming. He did this. So look, the reason this tribal law is what we're talking about is how did this bad seed get to become a bad tree? Is because tribal law wasn't enacted. And chances are that people also, especially
Dude, I mean,
nowadays,
even look at the
people,
Middle East, man. Where like you steal some shit and you get a fucking hand cut off. That's why
yeah,
you see a motherfucker over there, be like, oh, don't fuck with that dude. He's a fucking thief.
yeah, nigga, hey, you see when you see people missing both hands, that means that nigga didn't learn his lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real simple. The fact that there's some shit that if it was done correctly, we wouldn't have the problems that we have now. But like I told you, we live in a society now, well, not on accident, on purpose, where we love to discuss the gray area of shit. Like, some shit is black and white, some shit is yes and no, but we love to discuss, well, this happened. Yeah, you're doing that to
Got a
cloud
response.
yes, to dull people's response, to make people not want to whoop people's ass anymore. Look, R. Kelly should not have gotten as far as he got. But the problem is, there's a history of folks doing this shit. Here's the other thing that we never talk about. We love to talk about OJ and Nicole Brown Simpson, but we don't talk about Captain Kirk.
Dude,
Um,
listen, man. Recently, there was this family that was killed. This beautiful woman and her kids, and you see the picture of the woman and her kids together, and they're smiling. Look, they look like a happy family, man. They look like a happy family, and the husband kills her, the kids, and himself. But there's situations where the guy doesn't kill himself and he gets away. Well, he deserves the exact same. He deserves to be murdered. You know what I'm saying?
Look, you got to send a message. So, you know what? Even if you let him live, but you cut his feet off, and you don't help that nigga. If you do something to where, you know, people's vanity, is a big part of this shit. Where he probably was cheating, and shit like that. You remember the old girl, the shit in South Carolina where she drove her own 2 kids in the lake, and she said a black man did it. I remember that sketch. That nigga looked like me. I remember being in college, and people was like, "Hey, Rand, that kind of look like you." I'm like, "Oh my god!" Look, she sat there and had everybody looking for this black man that didn't exist, all because she wanted to be with her boyfriend who said, "I don't like women with kids." So you kill your husband's children instead of you just divorcing him and like, hey, I don't want custody of the kids. I want to move on. But what it was is that shows you how dumb people are. That dude that said that, he really didn't want you. He was just sleeping with you. He didn't want you. Like, I don't want one of them kids. What he's saying is, I don't want you. And so instead, you sacrifice your children for some relationship. You deserve it. She should have been stoned. Like, y'all should have marched her in front of the town and let the townsfolk stone that chick.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because that you should have sent a message like, hey, I get it. You don't like your marriage, you get divorced, but don't kill your kids all because of some dick.
I mean, the kids, man, like, oh.
Yeah, she remember she rolled the car into the lake.
Yeah.
And then she blamed her, and she had a whole composite drawing. They drew this drawing, had to do with a hat on and everything.
You had a chick that put the kids in a microwave and shit, man. They put a baby in a microwave. And I'm like,
Ooh.
all right. Or like, you know what? That's cool. We gonna slow torture the shit out of your ass.
Oh my god! Y'all should bury her with them fire ants. Do that
Alive,
crazy shit.
alive.
Yeah,
in a
bury her
casket.
alive. Let that mother get.
And put a tiny ass tube, and she thinks she's gonna breathe through it, and she starts putting her mouth up to it, and fire ants start coming out that motherfucker.
Oh no, that's where they bury and leave your head out. That's the one where they bury you, leave your head out, and they put honey on your head and let the ants just eat your ass up. Like,
no, and then you fucking just have a bear just come down, just ow, just chop that shit off.
Nah, have a great day and like piss on your head. Like, look, I think of torture all the time. Like we grew up on Wu-Tang. Like, I'm gonna sew your asshole clothes and keep feeding you and feeding you and feed. I'm gonna take a hanger and put it on in your ass. Like that should be a job. Like, hey man, you want to be a legal torturer? Like what? Yeah, I'll torture that motherfucker. Like look, these pedophile niggas. What I would do, I would handcuff their arms behind their legs and pull their pants down and get one of these big ass Great Danes that's horny and let that nigga go to town. Like, okay, you want to rape somebody here? Let this Great Dane rape your nigga ass, because the motherfuckers, just do some fucked up shit to people. Like, if I ain't ready to poke you up my leg. Like, look, what I'm saying is that in this society, so many times the punishment does not fit the crime. I think if the punishment fit the crime, that you would have real people not doing this shit. I think that you asked about rehabilitation, and the issue with rehabilitation is that, you got people don't want to change. That they feel that what they're doing is okay. They're not upset about anything. They have nothing to lose. Once that they realize that, okay, because some people don't have a conscience, so sometimes society has to be their conscience. And if you're dealing with a sociopath that doesn't have a conscience, then that's when everybody else has to step in and like, okay, we'll make you recognize what you're doing is wrong.
Right, man. I mean, dude. Yeah, dude. I really think for some of these crimes, they need to definitely go back to the old ways and handle shit that way. You know what I'm saying? So, tribal law, bring it back. That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.